Grind don't stop. Grind don't stop. Grind don't stop. Grind don't stop. Grind don't stop.
Hello!
Hi.
Welcome to Chewing Gum. Josie, I'm so excited that you're here. This is so exciting.
I'm excited too. And this is the first time I've ever been on Chewed Gum. So I'm like super excited about being here today. I know. It's been a long time
girl.
coming.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you don't already know, I'm Alyssa and I'm a sex and relationship coach. And this is Josie. Josie, would you like to give more info about you? I mean, everyone knows who you are, but like, you know.
Oh, well, everyone in the whole world knows who I am.
Everyone.
Everyone. Hello, everybody. I'm Josie, and I am a co-host or a host on the line with the Transatlantic Call-In Show. And by my day job, I am a trans rights activist working at a national nonprofit, and I do a lot of other things. And people know that, you know, I'm a commissioner over here. I'm leading as acting president over there. Like, there's just a lot of things I'm doing.
You dabble. You dabble.
You know,
you
just-
dabble.
Yeah.
Just here and there.
Yeah.
Today is November 26th. And it looks like I was swallowed by the void a little bit. It does look a little bit swallowed by the void back here. And you are welcome to call us today with anything that you want to talk about purity culture wise. We can talk about some sex ed stuff. Obviously Josie is here, so anything related to her activism would be amazing. Politics would be great.
Yeah, because I was the director.
Yes.
I'm the director of voting and elections so I do all the political things. So I'm also open to do that stuff too. Sorry, I didn't even interrupt you.
No, not at all. I am a chronic interrupter, so totally fine. And you can call us at 720-619-2288. And as a reminder, super chats at $5 or more we'll read at the end of the show.
Yes.
And
do we have any competitions?
I think that's it.
Do we have team Alyssa, team Josie? I know I'm already coming in heavy. It's like team Josie. I know they're in the chat. You know, they're there.
They're there. I don't know. I mean, we can do competitions. We can do whatever we would like. We can do whatever we want. And that's it's our show. We can do whatever
Especially when
we
you're
want.
in the void, you can literally you just can do everything. It's like I feel the void will come for us all, but you are like in it.
Yeah, I am. I literally am. And I'm at my friend's apartment and she sent me a text and she said, "Oh my God, sit on the other side." Because the other side, like her whole apartment is like so cozy and nice over there. And for some reason I sat this way
nice.
where, but it's all right. It's good. It's
Yeah,
good. I
it's
like
all
this.
right. It's all right.
It's
I'm here in Texas with my family, so you see the
mhm.
deer head in the back and all the stuff in the back here. So it's like, yeah, it's nice. It's nice. It's
Yeah.
cozy. We're both
Yeah.
out of our comfort zone, but we're here.
Yes. Yes. And I was saying before we had got on, growth happens in the comfort zone or out of the comfort zone. Exciting
Yep,
things happen
right.
outside of your comfort zone. So I don't know. Maybe today will be a magical day.
Yeah, it will be a magical day. I mean, it's
That's what
Alyssa and Josie. Never happened. So sparks are already flying. I love it.
I feel it. I feel it. What's been new with you while we're waiting? We have one call who is very patiently waiting in the line. But if anyone wants to call, make sure you get your calls in now because it's always in the
Yeah.
beginning. Our lines are open, and then halfway through they're packed, and then we have messages where people are like, "I can't get through. I can't get through." So get in your
Yeah.
calls early in the day.
Get in now. Get in now.
Yeah.
Well,
What's new
I
with you,
will say
Josie?
what I've been working on a lot, and luckily I'm going to be off until next week for the holidays now. But honestly, we've been working a lot on the anti-trans bathroom stuff that's been happening on the
Oh my
Capitol
God.
because it actually affects the work that I do. Because I actually do work in the Capitol every now and then, and also my organization has a lot of people who work in the Capitol. So we're like having conversations about how are we going to abide by the rule. We're like mapping which bathrooms are the safe bathrooms to go, and it's surreal.
Wow.
Like it is like
Yeah.
you get into work professionally, and then the thing we're talking about is like going to the Capitol and finding what bathrooms are safe for trans people, so we can like let other trans people who are lobbying know. It's it's bonkers. It's absolute bonkers. I cannot believe it.
Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like to have that be your lived experience right now. Like, I think even right after the election, we had like the first chewed gum show that we did. We had what's it called? We had someone call who was asking about where she should live because she is trans and her partner, I don't remember where they lived, but her partner was living in an area that where she was not particularly safe. And so the woman who called was wondering if she should move closer to where her partner is. She lived kind of far away. If she should move to where her partner is, or if she should move to an area that was safer. And her choice was literally, do I abandon what feels like abandoning my partner for my own safety, or do I go to where she is and then at least like we're sort of banded together? And it was
Yeah.
one of those very surreal moments where it was like, wow, like we're really seeing the real life implication, like real people dealing with this in an everyday situation and like really considering their safety. And it's like, this is the point. This is why it drives me crazy that people have been saying that you went through this in 2016 and you got through it. It's the same thing. I'm like, obviously it's not. Clearly it's not.
It's not. It's not. No, it's not. It's wildly not. And like we're already having rule changes. We already have like memos getting passed around about booting all trans people from the service. Like we have a host on the show who's in the military, right? Like, Dr. Ben. And he could lose his job, working for the
Right.
military. Like these things are very real to just us here, at the as hosts on the line and here in the chat. And it is really like to compare 2016 of like the uncertainty and like, but now they know what they're doing. Like we already know, like Trump is already appointing all of these cabinet members way sooner than before. Like before, a lot of these seats stayed vacant because he had no idea who was picking those roles. But now he's just stuffing them all through, and there's already just a cavalcade of just billionaires and sex offenders and just like the worst humans imaginable going through. So it's not going to be the same. So it is like I'm already having meetings about how to stay safe when I do my job, my actual job. Like it's
Right.
not the same. It is not the same.
Yeah.
But
it is so not the same. It's not. We had a poll in the chat that was does feminism threaten your beliefs? And it's so funny when we do polls like this because obviously we're polling people who watch this show and are friends of the channel a lot of the time, and so they so it's 55% no, as I'm not religious, and 39% no, not at all. And then the 3% yes, but I'm afraid to call, and 1% yes, and I'm calling in. So that 1% yes, and I'm calling in.
Yeah.
I really hope you do actually call in, and we do have some calls put through now. But yeah, I love when we do these polls because it's always sort of like, it's funny to see our little community show up the way that they do.
Yeah, I mean, our community on the line and like Chewed Gum and all our own shows, we are getting strong. Like we're almost at 150,000 subscribers. Like it's so exciting. Like so, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Get us to that number because we are getting there soon, at least before the end of the year.
And 100%. And we should have like a little celebration when we do because that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. We should all celebrate because we all work together, and it's funny. We all have our own little silos.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
and 150,000 people, I always think about how Madison Square Garden is 20,000 people. And when people perform at Madison Square Garden, you're like, wow, like that's so many people. And you packed the whole place. Like it's hard to really conceptualize what, right now we have 145,000, what that looks like and what that means.
Yeah.
But it's so special, and I'm so grateful to be a part of this. You know, it's just so cool. So
Same. It really is.
It's the best.
Oh,
it's the best.
We love you, chat. We love all of you and our friends.
We do. We really do.
We really do.
All right, we have some calls. Are you ready to take some calls?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. Okay. There is one call that I'm especially interested in taking. Are you in call-in studio? Like, do you see the calls at all?
I'm in a different computer, so I don't have it logged in. So you are driving completely. So it's a surprise to me.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna bring in Callie from Canada because this has been a conversation that has been top of mind for me. So I'm really excited to call. Callie, are you there?
Yeah, I am. Hey, how are you?
Hi. Is Callie right? Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, awesome. Hi, welcome to the show. Thank you for calling.
No worries.
So what did you want to chat about today?
I wanted to talk about the male loneliness epidemic. I got in an argument with someone on Reddit, and from what I gleaned from him, is by no means it's an antidote, so it's not like an official source or anything, but like it seemed like more instead of like men not being friends with each other, it's more that no one wants to date a certain demographic of men, particularly like conservative men. And I just wanted to explore that.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about this recently since the election, really, because I think men are in a really interesting spot right now because we've seen this radicalized group of specifically young white cis men that are 17 years old and finding Andrew Tate videos buried in YouTube somewhere, and they're really identifying with who he is and the things that he brings to the table. And I've started to become, a lot of my work as a sex and relationship coach has been focused on women, and I think that will still be like a big part of the work that I do. But I'm really interested in learning more about what's happening with men, because it's one of those things where I kind of feel like our reaction, especially after the election, is to sort of be like, fuck all the men. We've done enough teaching you, and I've reached my limit, and everyone's sort of like in the 4B mind space. And I get that. Like, I think that there is, I understand the frustration, and I understand the anger, especially for minorities, queer people, trans folks. Like, it's sort of like especially for those groups, I don't really want the work to fall on them any longer, especially because they're at a greater risk now. But for people who have the energy and the time, and the, like, if they can find the empathy, I think that the way that we're going to dig ourselves out of this is, unfortunately, with compassion, which is not what people want to hear. And so I
don't have the
feel
energy.
like, I know. And you know what? And
I get it.
you don't have to, because listen, I think for the people who can do it, they should do it full force. And like, I intend on being one of those people, because I think at the end of the day, if there are men who feel so affected by feeling lonely, us saying fuck you is going to make them say, well, fuck you too. And then no one's winning. It's lose-lose. And I would like us to get as close as we possibly can to win-win. And I just don't see that happening with all of what they say being constantly met with resistance. And I would really, what the question that I think about a lot for them specifically is, if I could ask them all and have a really like actual vulnerable conversation with them, I would like to know what they feel they gain from having the beliefs that they do. And I would really like them to explore that, because that to me is like the biggest question. What do you gain from this, really, by saying there's a male loneliness epidemic and everyone should feel bad for me, and like these like incel behaviors? What do you gain from that? Because you're definitely not winning people over with that behavior. So anyways, Josie, I'd like to know your thoughts.
Yeah, I would like to jump in here and talk about male loneliness kind of seen as a, I hate to say, it's like a victimization. It's like, I'm so lonely. Like, the young men are
Totally.
so lonely. It's like, that dating and, being out there, getting yourself out there requires effort as well. You can't just expect people to just like walk in through the door and be like, I don't want to make you lonely anymore. You got to get out there, get hobbies. Like, I realize a lot of times it's like people have straight like hobbies that maybe aren't like they may go out, but they're only going out with the boys, right? They're going out, they're going, shooting or hunting or whatever. And those are like highly masculinized activities. I'm not saying that women don't do those things, but, trying to actually put yourself out there, join board game groups, go different places, university, things like that, where you can actually go and be around other people and then you can vibe off of other people. I feel like a lot of times, and you said it, the incel behavior is like the expectation that they are owed a woman, where they are owed the attention of women that they like, rather than just saying, hey, let me go and vibe with different people and see who they connect with, and then they'll be able to have a good time. It's just putting yourself out there. It's like, it's never been easy. Like, it's like, you think about, like, it's never been easy to be in the dating scene. Being single sucks sometimes, because you're like, especially when you're young, you're just like, who am I going to meet? Who am I going to know? I don't know anybody. Especially if you're in a new city, it's like, what are you expecting? And I think that that's the problem, is like, I want women to accept me for who I am. It's like, it's a give and take. Like, we just don't have to accept the package that you give in front of us. We can choose different humans that we can try to interact with. So I just don't like the victimization that comes along with like the idea of like, it's an epidemic, men are lonely. And it's like, I know a lot of men and they're not lonely and they're thriving and they have happy relationships, or they're happily single and they're going out and doing all these different things. For me, maybe it's invisible. Maybe I don't see it because I'm not, around these lonely men, because I'm not out and about finding these people that are shut in their homes. Like, I think there's more to it than the women's fault. And that's where I get really frustrated with this conversation. It's like, it's now on women to now end the male loneliness epidemic. And it's not on us. Like, other men have to coach and mentor other men to be able to be like, hey, let's go out to the bar, let's go out to this place, let's go out to the place where we can actually mingle and meet other people outside of your bubble online. And it's not up to a woman to just like pull through the screen that they're watching the video from and pull them out of into the real world. And I feel like a lot of that is that.
Yeah.
Just turns
I
into
agree
resentment.
I agree that it's definitely not the problem of women that men are struggling at all, but I don't feel like, because men have a hard time being vulnerable with each other, I think it's hard to have deep friendships without vulnerability. And men are not, because like, it's sort of like we always say the patriarchy affects everyone. And this is one of those moments where like you see how heavily it affects male friendships, especially deep male friendships. And where I have empathy for them is I don't think that men are given tools to figure out how to find the softness and the vulnerability that leads to real companionship within their friendships even. And so that's where I feel like if regardless of their gender, if you ever have the energy to hold space for men to find that, then that's amazing and you should do it. Because ultimately, like, I don't, yes, I think it's victimy, and I think that men need to learn how to take responsibility for the actions that have caused them to be there. This is your responsibility at the end of the day. You feel lonely, you should make friends. And you should be able to seek out resources to do that. However, humans are people who need community, and so give
Absolutely.
any source of community and support that we can give to anyone is helpful. And so I understand, and I don't think that people are wrong for feeling frustrated and feeling very like, fuck this, like, we figured it out, why can't you? And if you ever have the energy and the empathy to try and expand, to expand your care for the way that the patriarchy does affect how men have friendships and relationships with other people, then I think you should give it a shot. It's complicated, and I don't know. I'm still sort of like mapping out my thoughts on it, because there's a lot going on with it.
Yeah, Callie, do you want to add anything? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just, in terms of treating, like, I don't know, Trump supporters as with empathy and understanding like where they come from. I feel like that is valuable, but like I find it so hard to like try and just reconcile some of their like really like fucked up opinions and like want to keep talking with them after that. I feel like sometimes there's just a point in the conversation where I feel like this person is completely unreachable. And
yeah,
I think in terms of the male loneliness epidemic, it gets mentioned a lot more to like invalidate, especially like the issues that women face. I think it's always like they always want to mention like the male suicide rate or the draft or some shit, but then it's just as a way to shit on the problems women face and be like, well, if we're going through this, you should be able to go through that. And I don't really like that. And
totally.
Yeah. The whole thing just seems like a way for them just to like maintain this place in a hierarchy. And I think what like no one really mentions is that it's fun just to like deny someone because you're higher up than them. And I think that's sort of the reason why they hold on to it so much. They cling to like this old ass idea of like one woman, one man, you have the 2.5 kids, and I guess they feel like they're missing out. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And I just wanted to add is like that's the issue too. It's like the behavior makes them become lonely. Like, you know, and I always get brought back to this story, and because I'm in a very unique situation as you know, as a trans woman, to have this story. So I was in the military, I was in the Navy, and so I heard the locker room talk, you know, and I was in those spaces, and I remember very clearly a story where there were these men that were just talking so horribly about the sexual conquest that they were having with women. And they were very graphic and disturbing about the way they would speak on these things. And I piped up and I'm like, hey, like, why don't you just treat women with respect? Because I doubt that any of these women are coming back to you because of the way that you are treating them in these intimate situations. And the guy looks at me, one of the men look at me in the eyes, deadpan face, unironically, and says, "Are you gay?" Like just like flatly.
Brother.
Yeah,
That's
and
so
it was just
dumb.
like, and I was like, you know, I was appeared cis het at the time, right? That's what I was in the Navy back then, and so for me, it was like shocking. I was just shocked, and to put a sweetener on the story, one of the women that we worked with was in the back, and nobody knew she was back there because she was doing maintenance on one of the panels in the room in the back, and nobody knew she was back there. She pops her head out and she was like, you know, she goes, if I did not have a boyfriend right now, I would take Josie into the back and fuck the brains out of her because she's actually somebody that I would respect. And everybody's like, what's going on? What? Like, they had no clue or idea that conversation was so disgusting to her in the back, that the one person that was like, that's actually kind of stupid and why are you doing that, then she's like, no, that person is the attractive one in the group, and they didn't understand, you know. And so it's like the behavior that is the toxic, like going around being with the bros, the sexual conquest and all that, is all antisocial behavior, you know, going out and going in, tearing down rainbow flags, or promoting, like, revving up a big truck next to people's faces as you speed down the road. That's all antisocial behavior. So what does antisocial behavior do? It makes you no longer social because you are literally antisocial. And then to do that, and then all of a sudden they look around and they're like, wow, I've been such an asshole in my life that nobody likes to even be around me anymore. And now I'm stuck alone in my house. I'm so sad. It's like, take some self-reflection, take some stock into what you have done to put yourself in this situation, because the person that you're calling gay down the street, that is in a loving, happy, heterosexual relationship, is out there partying, having a good time, thriving in their lives. But for some reason, you think that their behavior is somewhat demasculizing when they're actually going out there and having a healthy, fruitful sex life and relationship life with friends and abilities to do whatever they want. And people don't want to take that stock. People don't want to do that reflection. And until people start actually doing that reflection, like, I don't think this is going to solve itself. This is not going to solve itself. And that's why we need, and we don't have a man on this call, because I think there's a lot of men that would be able to give some insight into this, like, that would be able to say, hey, like, yes, I understand this, right? Going through what it's like to be a young man to a person that grows up into a man, because I don't know what it's like to be a man, even though I pretended to be one. Mine is just like looking through a little window, right? That's all the ability that I've been able to, like, experience. I was in a disguise, like two midgets in a trench coat, two dwarfs in a trench coat, just walking around. It's like, that's what I was. I was a disguise. I was an imposter, and so that's what it was. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's like you said, I don't think it's a problem that's going to resolve itself. And that's what concerns me. Like, I don't, and someone said it in the chat too, that they don't expect introspection from somebody they said a right winger, secular felinist. Oh, that's funny. It's a little cat in the picture. But yeah. And that's what concerns me, is then what do we do? Because ultimately, if we let this run its course, how many Trump presidencies are we going to have to survive? Like how much hurt do we all have? Because ultimately, women, minorities, queer people, like these are the people who get hurt by their actions the most. So like how do we benefit from having the fuck men, it's their responsibility to fix it mentality if they're still the group that many other people are going to want to impress? So like even having the percentage of people vote for Trump that were like black men or any like minority, where like you could, there maybe there was a mentality of I want to fit in with like this group of people that is so like ahead of where I'm at in the political landscape. How do we infiltrate that if not by trying to have some sort of like connection with them? Because I don't trust that they're going to do it on their own. And I also don't trust that they're going to at some point have like a moment of enlightenment and start turning it around themselves. So unfortunately, I don't want it to be on us, but I think that if we want change, it has to come from an external source.
I think you need to like demystify sort of the ideas around what they believe, which is anti-feminism, anti-woman misogyny. And I think you also should like appeal to their self-interest and be like, look, if you want to get a girlfriend, you need to respect them as a person, you know,
right?
Do the fucking dishes, do some chores, because no one wants to be breadwinning and like coming home and having to do a whole bunch of extra labor and shit. And yeah, I don't know where you would even start with that. Some people say you need like a leftist Joe Rogan or something, but I don't know.
Yeah,
it's tough.
I think that puts too much power on Joe Rogan. But no, I think you are right about the fact that we need to and man, this is I haven't said a phrase like this in a long time. Probably we just need to raise people better. Like, it's just like I think it's so weird to say that out loud, but yeah, it's like, we used to like respect your daughters, like respect the people around you, the people who raised you, and I feel like that's what we have to do. It's really this is going to be a question that is going to plague our generation until we die. Of how it's either going to be like, oh, everything's on the up and up, or it's like our birth rates are as low as South Korea's. Like, it's like I don't know where this is going to go, and I don't know what the mentorship's going to bring. It's just really frustrating because I've been doing a lot of post-election analysis, and one of the things I was thinking about a lot was 2016, where a lot of this was starting to bubble. Right, you have the Gamergate stuff that happened right before that, and you have all the different the vision of sexist really started to be poignant. But even Hillary Clinton called the Bernie supporters Bernie bros as a pejorative, as something of like, oh yeah, these girls, and she literally said this in the campaign, and I was very angry because I was a Bernie delegate too. She literally said that girls were going and supporting Bernie so they can pick up the boys that are supporting Bernie. Like, she tried to make it such a clear delineation, and like taking women's power away to like support a presidential candidate, young women in particular, support a presidential candidate because they just wanted to pick up a boy at a political rally. And so we had a whole generation of young men who were very excited about Bernie Sanders. And then you had an entire political system that was owned by Hillary Clinton at the time that was pushing them out, trying to say, no, we don't need you. Here's my woman card. And I think that's where it begins. And it's like the damage that was done during that election. I go back to 2016 a lot of like, that was when the big chisel was taken to our community and the division started to begin, because Trump is the great divider, but somebody had to start it. And because Trump wasn't in power, and the Democrats were back then. And I think that Hillary created, and the Democrats that supported her, created a wedge, and it created the ability for people like Trump to get his fingers into that wedge and rip it apart, because he's the great divider. He'll be known through that in our history books. That's what he's going to be. And it's going to take some unifying force. I don't even think it's a person. I think it's going to take some unifying force, something that is going to like bring people together again, where we can like say, hey, I'm a woman, you're a man, we can support something politically together and not have to be opposed to each other. I don't know when that's going to be. And, you know, and I always bring it back to politics because everything's politics. And, you know, that's where I think a lot of this began. And I think that's where the battle started to happen. And it's just young men don't feel like they have a voice in the Democratic Party. I had a long conversation with a Democratic political leader about this, and I'm like, yeah, I can feel that. You know, I was a Democratic leader for a long time before I transitioned, and I remember myself personally, like I was like, oh, I'm allowed to take space, like. Wait, I can actually like speak out and like say something in this room and not everybody like be mad that I'm in the space. Like it was really jarring. It was really jarring to realize how much of that was confirmed in my own existence as a political trans woman when I've experienced both sides. Because I don't have political enemies anymore. I did when I was pre-transition, but I don't anymore, which is interesting. And I don't know what that dynamic is. So anyways, this has been a really interesting call though.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks for taking it.
Thank you for teeing up this conversation. It's so funny because I've been thinking about it a lot, particularly this weekend. So I appreciate this call. And I'll be thinking about this more. And if you have any other good ideas, let us know.
No worries. Thank you. Take care, guys.
Thank you, Callie.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
All
It seems like
right.
your dog has something to say.
My friend's dog she's the funniest little pug, and she's really cute and very spunky. But it wouldn't be a chewed gum chewed line. Show, chewed line, without some dog barking, because usually it is mine. I'm going to quickly go through the schedule, and then our call lines are full. So it always happens that way. So I'll just quickly go through our schedule for the next couple of days. So tomorrow we have the Hang Up with Matt Dillahunty and Brian Dalton. And on the 28th, the 29th are TBD right now. On the 30th, I have hold on, it's really small. Hello, do we know what's on? I can't see what it is. It looks like DW.
Small. Is it DW?
No.
Because I wanna.
It's CIW.
Because I wanna. Yeah, okay.
With Owen Morgan, because I want to, with Owen Morgan and Eric. I think that's SS. I don't know why I can't zoom in on Discord. It makes me feel like I'm 100. Anywho. And then we have I think that's all we have on the schedule for now. And then we'll have more shows scheduled moving forward. We're a little TBD right now because we're going through some holiday scheduling, I think. But that's what we have coming up. And as a reminder, super chats at $5 or more we'll read at the end of the show. And I think that's all I got. You had very good insight for that call, Josie. I'm glad that you were here for that because.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm telling you, I've been thinking about that like crazy recently. So I'll be noodling on that for probably the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things. And also, I'm in the call-in studio now, so I can see the calls.
Yay. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
are there
figured it
any
out.
that, yay. Are there any that call out to you that you want to take next?
Nothing calls out to me. What do you think?
Let's see. We do have maybe this first one with Wes.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds
All right.
great. Okay.
All right, let's pull Wes into the show. Wes, are you there?
Yes, hi.
Hello.
Hi, Wes.
What did you want
How
to
can we
chat
help
about
you?
today?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so good evening to both of y'all. No, I had a question. I was watching Skep Talk last night, and I'll try and be real quick with this. There was a caller that called in, and Forrest and Erica kind of dealt with the question quite well. And he was asking, or the caller was asking, what kind of compromises would, folks on the left be willing to make to sort of get like this, like political impetus and movement forward, to make some headway against the travesty that is our government right now. And so the two issues that they sort of brought up, or that sort of got brought up, were abortion and then trans rights. And I found myself agreeing with what Forrest said when it came to both topics, and that was, I'm not willing to put the human rights of people on the political chopping block, as it were, to try and get some sort of political movement. And while Eric and Forrest, I think, answered the questions quite well, while I was sitting there watching it, I was thinking, it would be, as somebody who doesn't have any trans people in my direct community, it would be nice to hear what people who have that lived experience would say. I don't want to say that I think I know the answer, but I would just like to hear, as somebody who wants to be on that line, as fighting for human rights and not seeing people mistreated and and worse. I just wanted to hear, what your thoughts on that would be, Josie, and just sort of, to sort of, bolster my ability to be there.
Yeah, for sure. And I appreciate it. And this is where I say is, I don't agree with the premise that we have to compromise. I think the premise is flawed because they make it seem like, oh, the left lost or the Democrats lost because they went too hard in one direction, be it abortion, trans rights, and things like that. But evidentiarily, we can see that they actually didn't. In fact, you see a lot of compromise happening already that didn't work. So, for example, if you were to say compromising on trans rights, you would say Kamala Harris never said or gender affirming care. She did not put a trans person on the DNC stage at the convention, which is the first time, which bucked precedent, because we've had a trans person on the stage for I think the last 3 or 4 cycles, which bucked precedent. We also had the fact that we also had no trans person in leadership in the Harris campaign. In fact, I was watching Pod Save America today, and it was an exclusive interview that they had with the actual senior campaign team in Harris. It's the first time that they've had this meeting with the Harris campaign staff. The campaign staffer literally said transgenders. Okay. So for me, it's like, if you think that if this is the most left campaign that we've ever seen in history, one of the senior staffers in charge of communication literally said the word transgenders when we were talking about transgenders issues. And it was so jarring to me. I think screamed out loud when I heard it, because it made me so furious that's what it is. And this has always been the tactic of the right, where they take the most marginalized activist voices, and then they say, this is what the entirety of the Democratic Party wants. They want open borders. They want abortions after birth. They want trans people to be able to get everything and take over women's sports. They want to eliminate women's spaces. Like, those are the words that they say, and they say this is the Democrats that are saying it. The issue is that the Democrats are just letting that be the narrative instead of pushing back on it. So I have a lot to say on this. So give me a moment here. So the 2019 ACLU questionnaire that came out during the presidential primary, when all those candidates answered that questionnaire, there was a question that talked about inmates and immigrants getting surgeries in prisons. It was a very obscure question. They asked it to all people, then they publicized it. That was done by the ACLU, a cisgender-run organization, not trans-led, but they asked that question in a very niche way, and then the Republicans took that ACLU question, spent $100 million figuring out ways to actually make that the entire talking point at the end of the campaign to make the Democrats seem like they're radical. And so in reality, the problem is that the Democrats are too compromising. They feel like, oh, we're going to run away from this issue because if we run away from the issue, the Republicans will stop saying that we believe these things, when in actuality, they go harder. And the problem with it is that the Democrats are allowing the most fringe left-wing people to control the narrative instead of creating their own narrative and actually having trans people actually speak for themselves and actually talk about these rights. And we also know that abortion rights win. They win nationwide. States across the country won abortion rights but lost Harris. And so the fact of the matter is, because the Democrats have been running away from the left issues that are their core base and ran to the center to compromise for the center, they lost heavily. And the reason they lost is because they lost about 10 million voters that didn't go out and vote. And we needed those 10 million voters. And when those 10 million voters didn't feel like they were being talked to, well, guess what? They didn't vote. So then the narrative after the campaign comes, well, you know what the Democrats need to do? More Liz Cheney. We need more compromise. We need to stop talking about trans people altogether. We need to start adopting the narrative of boys and women's sports shouldn't be allowed. We're going to actually try and say, hey, we're going to go ahead and follow the rules about bathrooms so we can govern. See, Sarah McBride, a sitting congresswoman, already said, I'm not going to follow the rules. I don't know what more compromising the Republicans want from us when the actual trans people in power are actually doing it as well. So that's why I don't agree with the narrative. I don't agree with the fact that we need to compromise. In fact, I would say the opposite. We need to hold her truer to the values of women's reproductive justice and people's reproductive justice. We need to stand stronger on bodily autonomy. We need to stand stronger on human rights and the ability to just live as yourself, no matter how it looks for certain people. That's what we need to do. And you know, the Republicans are going to be strong. And I'll say this as my last point. Democrats had a choice. Centrists had a choice to vote for Republican-like Kamala Harris, the most lethal military force in the world, and we're gonna have Israel have the right to defend itself, and we're gonna do all of these things and have Liz Cheney chart out all this stuff. We're gonna have Republican light versus the Republican. Well, guess what? People don't like light. They want the actual real thing. And that is why I feel that we have lost this thing, and I feel that talking about compromising our values because the right eked out an election, and I do say eked out because the numbers show that it was still an eke out. I don't think we need to have that. I don't think we need to compromise on anything. In fact, I would say we need to get harder and stronger on our values. But anyways, I spoke a lot because I've been thinking about this a lot. It's been driving me bonkers because I did not have the opportunity to speak my truth before because we needed to win an election, because we needed to win the battle. But now that the battle is over, I have the ability to actually be honest about what happened on that battlefield.
That was beautiful. No notes.
Yeah, that's like that's like so good to hear. Because I agree, right? That yeah, like we the Democratic Party is that's such an astounding. It's just diet Republican. It's Republican light. It's so bad. And yeah, I agree that this idea of compromise, the way you put that was really good. That we don't need to have this. That we're already that there's already all this compromise that's being done. And the reason that I wanted to ask the question was because I had in the beginning of the call I said that I don't have any transgender people in my direct community. I did have one a fraternity brother that I went to college with, transitioned after college, and she recently took her life, and it sort of messed with a lot of us. And so not having her to talk to about this kind of an issue has really sort of left me in a sort of lurch, because as you can see, I'm from Georgia, so there's well, it's Georgia. That's what I'll say. But no, I really appreciate y'all taking my call and giving such a well thought out and just excellent answer. I really appreciate the time and just and knowing that there's a fight that we have, and so thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for asking that question, because I've had time to cook and get my thoughts in order, because a lot of it was originally, I think all of us were in a stupor, where we were just like, we were knocked out. We were coming to. It's like, wait, the fight's over? What happened? We got knocked out. That's what happened. And that's kind of where I have been kind of like trying to figure out what these things are. And this is some of my completed thoughts on where we are at this point. So I really appreciate you taking the time to ask the question and hear me out.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I hope you guys have, or y'all have a great holiday with whatever it is that you're doing over the next couple of days, and be safe.
Yeah.
And I hope to call in again soon. And this is my first time calling, so it's very
well, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Wes, for calling. You gave Josie like a perfect tee up, and I really appreciate it, because I think myself included, we all really needed to hear that. So I appreciate it. Thank you, Wes. Have a good night.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. You too.
That was awesome. We need to have that clipped, and I'm just gonna like play it on a loop when I need it. But you're so right. And one of the other things too about compromise is, and I have this conversation with people about abortion, is there's no way to compromise that leaves people in a safe space. Like there is no compromise where there is safety and like an ethical solution in compromise. There just isn't.
That's right. There isn't. And the thing is, it's like everybody's talking about messaging and framing, and how do we, and how you said it is absolutely right? Like there is no compromise to somebody's human rights, somebody's bodily autonomy, somebody's safety. There should never ever be a compromise of like, let me oppress you just a little bit. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you be my servant for like one out of the weeks for free for me? Like, 1 day out of the week for me? Like there is no compromise there. And the issue is the way that the other side frames that is, you're just an unapologetic, like you're not gonna compromise, like, and you don't believe in bipartisanship, and the reality is that they try to frame it in a way to make us look bad for being morally in the right position of trying to make sure people are safe. And the difficulty is, and this is why I'm so mad at the Democrats right now, is that they're having such a poor job of being able to message that in a way that speaks to the person in the middle. Because that's what it needs to be. We need to be able to tell people, hey, you know what Nancy Mace is doing is a completely vile, horrible thing. Don't you think that's horrible? Like, that seems just mean, right? Most voters would agree with you, but how do we message that into exactly the position of we shouldn't compromise somebody's humanity? And it becomes a messaging war, and Democrats are more willing to be like, maybe, yeah, sure, I will consider it, instead of actually being like what you're saying, exactly right. There is no compromising on this issue.
Yeah.
But Democrats don't like that. Like there was an issue in one of the political campaign ads, I think, when Tim Walz said dipshit, like, that, Elon Musk is jumping around on the stage like a dipshit. They put that in an ad. They had Democrats calling the Harris headquarters being like, I don't like that you used a swear word on the ad. It's like, it's just like, it makes me so sick to my stomach. It's like, do you not listen to 5 minutes of Trump? Like,
Right.
and you're upset that we're
Right.
using a swear word in a freaking ad? Like, get over yourself. When I ran for office, I would have these old blue-haired lady Democrats that would come to me and be like, I don't like the way you use fight. You use fight way too much in your rhetoric, and it makes me uncomfortable. I'm like, my sign says I'm a veteran fighting for you. Like, get off it. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's like
No.
living in a fantasy
Oh my
world where fight is
God.
too aggressive.
Wow.
And so we have to change that. We do.
Yeah. 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 Wow.
Drives me bonkers.
That is so crazy. Oh my God.
Mhm.
All right, let's try and get to, maybe we can do 2 more calls before we get to super chats, perhaps. Is there any call in the studio that you would like to take specifically?
Let's see. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Let's go with Nikki from
Okay.
Michigan. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's bring Nikki in. Nikki, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, Nikki.
Hi. So, I was watching an episode of Skep Talk last night, and one of the callers on there was talking about abortion and pregnancy and all that, and it got me to thinking about bodily autonomy and human rights and stuff. And I have a syllogism here that argues that bodily autonomy is fundamental to all other human rights. I was hoping I could run it by you guys to see if there's any sort of fallacious argumentation or assumptions that are being made that aren't necessarily true, or that sort of thing.
I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me pull it up here. Okay, here it goes. All human rights require a person to have their own body. In order to exercise those rights, one must make decisions which, due to the very nature of existence, inherently involves one's own body. Therefore, the right to bodily autonomy is fundamental to all other human rights.
I mean, that sounds good to me. I wouldn't have anything to argue with you on that at all.
Is there any? Because I'm thinking that some people would probably argue that that would mean that the fetus has fundamental right to bodily autonomy, and ending the pregnancy would therefore violate that bodily autonomy. And I'm not, yeah.
I guess then it would depend on when you determine bodily autonomy to be like viable for a human being. Like, is it from? And then I feel like then you get into the conversation of like, is it at conception? Is it at 6 weeks? Is it, you know, I don't know. Josie, what do you think?
Yeah, and so, you know, the exercise of coming up with an argument and then steel manning your own argument is like playing chess against yourself. And you know, it's like, you know, you're making a good move, but you also know what you're thinking on the other side kind of situation. It's really difficult to do. So for me, I feel like the argument that you said is a great starter argument for, not argument, I would say just a great starter point for a conversation that you may be having with someone who doesn't believe in bodily autonomy. However, I find it more, and this is through my experience of, you know, being a persuasive person and knocking on doors and having people be persuaded electorally and also throughout my life and other aspects, is rather than trying to defend the argument and the words that you put forward, I think it's also more important to figure out where the person that you're having the disagreement is coming from. I always find it more fruitful of an exercise to think about which questions would you ask somebody if they say, I don't believe in bodily autonomy, right? Because there's a lot of different ways when somebody says that statement. It's not about convincing somebody to believe in bodily autonomy. It's about figuring out why they believe that. Because once you're able to understand their fundamental understanding of why they don't think bodily autonomy is important, then you can actually start getting to the crux and the root of their own epistemology and why they believe certain ways the way they believe. Because it could be like, you could have an interrogation structure that you've been able to practice of, okay, you don't believe in bodily autonomy. Is there any other aspects do you also believe that if you don't believe that, you know, people don't have the bodily autonomy for reproductive justice or reproductive access, what other things do you think humans shouldn't have bodily autonomy to do? And that interrogation is like, oh, well, I also believe that. And then you could go, oh, well, I also believe that we shouldn't kill people. Okay, great. What about, you know, in self-defense? What do you think about that? Or, you know, in the law of like, how does the government have the ability to take someone's life? Do they have the bodily autonomy to keep it? Once you're able to start digging in, you can start finding what I call a shared value. When you're able to find a shared value with someone who has a stance like, I don't believe in bodily autonomy, that's when the conversation really starts getting started. Because once you're able to say, oh, no, I believe that people should be able to have a right to life and live their lives throughout their, you know, okay, great, we have something we can agree on. So therefore you can say, okay, so you don't believe that the state should take somebody's life, you know, and I'm using this as a pure hypothetical just to have launching off points. Okay, great. So if you don't believe that the state has the ability to remove, to stop a human life, then what are your thoughts about the state telling a person that they can't have an abortion or they will die? Like, it's like, who has the bodily autonomy then? Because we both agree that people have right to life, but when somebody is saying that I'm going to die without this medical service, but the government says you can't have it, where is your position then? And once you're able to find those shared values and start really getting deeper into it, you'll realize very quickly that they don't believe in the stance that people don't have bodily autonomy. They believe in the specific subset of it, and then you can start blowing that out to start being a little bit larger and more widespread. And then they will start seeing, wait, I do have the shared value that people do deserve bodily autonomy. This is really interesting that I framed it this way. And then that's the way the conversation can go. Will this change their mind? Not always. However, those are the type of questions that people can explore. And you can always say this too, Nikki. This is also very important. When somebody says, when you ask a question and they just stay silent and they're just like, just be like, it's okay. I don't need an answer right now. Just think about it. right? Because then they can actually ruminate on it without having the nervous energy of like, I need to respond to you because I'm in a debate with you. Just give it time to cook in their minds of like, wait, maybe I haven't thought about that. And for me, that's always been a much more effective approach to persuasion, is finding out the investigation structure of how you want to approach a conversation when you approach somebody who has the counter belief that you are trying to help people enlighten them to see. Because enlightenment doesn't come from another person. Enlightenment comes from themselves understanding something better for themselves. Nobody's going to bonk you on the head and say, hey, this is the way you should believe, stupid. Like, why aren't you listening to me? Like, that's never going to work. I've tried it until I've had to figure out different methods, which is more of an investigation approach to getting to people's real lived realities and why they believe the way they do. Because fundamentally, and this also goes with the philosophy that I think people are just good people. At least they believe they want to be good people. I think that even, your most diehard Trump supporter, probably in the back of their mind, are like, yeah, I'm a good person. I'm not mean. I don't want you to die, right? And they have that true fundamental belief. But if you can dig down and figure out where that shared value is and then pull that out into reality, you may make a difference in somebody's life, somebody else to come by and be like, hey, what about this thing? And then like, you know what? I've thought about this before. And you know what? I've actually changed my view on this a little bit. And so going in not to win, but going in to enlighten and giving people that room to grow, I think is a better tactic, especially in our divided world that we're in today. But that
makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was awesome. I agree. And I think even to like the first conversation that we had on the show today, it's not about being right as much as it is about actually having productive conversations that can potentially create change. And like you said, the enlightenment has to come from within. Like, you're not going to do it in that conversation. But I think even like you said, Josie, giving them the grace of like, you don't need to have an answer right now. You can sit with it. And like, this is not a competition, and we're just having like a thoughtful conversation instead.
So, Nikki, I know that's not exactly what you wanted to talk about, but you wanted to talk about your specific argument, but your argument is fine. I don't see anything wrong with it. It's just that I'm talking about the meta approach of how you would use it.
I really appreciate the advice. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for calling, Nikki. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
And let us know if this conversation and this like argument develops at all. And I'm sure we'd love to hear the evolution of it.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love it.
I will. Thank you. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too. All right. Okay, so let's do one more call. Do you have a preference of which one we take on?
So there's two on my mind. One is interesting. Oh wait, I think it changed. So we could go and go with a person who's disagreeing with what we were talking about in the first conversation to close it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that might be good because we're kind of doing that whole arc of like, we're going to go back to where we started. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, let's do it. Because a lot of people were disagreeing in the chat too. So I think that it might be nice to kind of close it out that way.
Yeah.
All right. So
sorry, other callers.
Yes, I'm sorry. But hi, Ian.
Hi, Ian.
Hi, Alyssa. Hi, Josie. Thanks for taking the call.
Hi.
Thanks for calling. Do you want to explain your position, what you were calling in for today?
Yeah, sure. So I was watching the first call. It was really interesting. But for the first time, I don't entirely agree with you guys. So I thought, wow, I'll call in.
I'm glad you did.
Right.
That I'm sure a lot of what you disagree with was also what people in the chat were kind of like having conversation about. So tell us more.
Yeah. Yes. Because I called in, I didn't see a lot of what was in chat. I saw some of it, but it's a much bigger issue than just male loneliness and people being taken by alpha male culture and right-wing grifters. The only reason that they're going there is because they're saying, yeah, you're male, it's difficult, there's a problem, but then here's all these shitty solutions that we can give you. Because we know that you're experiencing something, but there's nobody else acknowledging that, so they've only got that one bad place to go. There's an online psychologist that talks about this a lot, Healthy Gamer. I don't always agree with everything he says, but he's come from a place of getting rid of the toxic culture, opening up more, giving these young people, because it happens a lot when guys are younger and less experienced, that they're basically groomed by these horrible people. But the way I see it as a bigger problem is, so for example, even 20, 30 years ago, you graduate school, you go to university, you get a good job, you can afford a house, you can afford a car, and you might be able to afford to have a wife and kids without your partner working full time. Now, if you go to university, your degree's quite often useless because they're saying that we want 20 years experience in a job that's in a field that's only existed for 5 years. And I see part of the problem as capitalism, because to be successful in business and a CEO, you have to be somewhat psychotic. You have to have no emotion.
Yeah. So
You have to
Ian,
be okay being ruthless, and you see this in politics as well. Mercenary behavior with no consequences, like what happened with the Democrats recently. Oh, we'll go further to the right. We'll abandon all of our principles, and then the voters elect a president who's been found. How do I phrase it? Found liable in a civil case of rape.
that's right. Found
And
guilty.
has 34 federal charges that are now he's not going to have any consequences for until at least after his term. So all people are seeing is, to be successful, to be good, you have to have horrible behavior, and it's okay because there's no consequences.
So I hear you,
so that's
and
where
I
I'm
guess
coming
I
from.
want to. Yeah. So I know you've been going on for a minute, and I wanted you to get your thoughts out on this. So I kind of want to go into the crux of it. So are you saying that using the toxic masculinity is bad structure, is not good because being toxically masculine and being an asshole is more appealing? Is that the argument that you're making?
Well, saying that the problem is toxic masculinity or these people going to the right wing, that's not the problem. That's a symptom. Guys are told, less so now, but historically, that you behave a certain way. This is what you do. This is what happens in life. But now they're seeing that there's no reward for any of that behavior. So
I guess
why?
my question is, I'm just asking, my question is, how does that lead to the male loneliness epidemic, which was the original preposition at the beginning, which was, we have a male loneliness epidemic. But it sounds like what you're saying is it's cool to be Trump and with no guardrails and have all that stuff and have all those benefits. So I'm just trying to encapsulate.
I think I think
I
I'm
don't
sort of
see it as a
understanding
loneliness
maybe where.
epidemic. It's bigger than that. It's society. It's a number of issues, but it's just become really bad recently because these people who feel abandoned have been given a place to go. Just
Right.
unfortunately, it's really, really bad.
That's kind of like, Ian, I understand your perspective, and I feel like that's kind of what I was trying to. Oh my gosh, she's going crazy. That's what I was trying to like also touch on a bit is, unfortunately, we're seeing these toxic behaviors, which, like, we've had this conversation before where we don't even like to refer it as toxic masculinity because we don't believe that masculinity should show up that way. It's just toxic behavior, period. That toxic behavior is being rewarded over and over again when we have someone like Trump who's being elected. And so that it's really hard to then come into those spaces and say, no, like, be vulnerable, be soft, be this version of like what we need in society that makes us all in a win-win situation, when that doesn't feel like that's being rewarded. And so, then it's like a larger scale. You're right. It's like it is a societal thing. And so that's that. In those moments, that's kind of where what I was saying in the beginning comes into play, where I think, unfortunately, some of the responsibility of how we create a better structure has to be on us, because we have to create reward for people who are soft and vulnerable and wanting to have win-win across the board. And I think you're right. It's like, if someone's going to be a CEO, 9 times out of 10, they have to be a sociopath, because they have to be win for them and lose for a big majority of the people. And so we trying to support those win-win men is going to be sort of like the heroic effort, like the Herculean effort that we have now coming into another 4 years of this and beyond. Because ultimately, Trump is a symptom of a thought, a school of thought that existed already and is now just like the floodgates have opened. And now it's being rewarded and it's accepted and whatever, empowered now.
Yeah, absolutely. And touching on something Josie said earlier about politicians in the Democrat Party kind of abandoning their values, go more to the center, more to the right. I think there should be more politicians who stick to the guns, say things that not everybody agrees with, but if they show up and do the job of like providing infrastructure, doing the day-to-day job, actually doing the job of a politician, then people are more likely to listen to them on issues that they don't necessarily agree with, because they've demonstrated that they've done something for them.
No, you are right. However, we have a problem with how we are messaging, and this is where a lot of the issue comes in. Is the Democratic Party's kind of geriatricy, or geriatricy, like older humans that are the ones that are running the show, and essentially what it's become is that a few elder statespeople are in control of everything that's happening at the Democratic Party, and it didn't allow the bench to be built. And what we talk about the bench in politics is like, we didn't have young and up and comers have positions of power to actually lead on a lot of these issues like infrastructure. So when we talk about the win for the infrastructure, when we talk about the infrastructure bill that Biden was able to pass, who do we give that to? Biden. When we talk about the CHIPS Act, who do we give that to? Biden. Like, we don't give it to other politicians. We should have been Harris and all of these other electeds that helped get it done, and we're all a team and we're going to do it. But it's become so individualized in politics that the people don't even care about the policies anymore. They just talk about the person who's at the top, and they're like, okay, I'm going to get this person. And so one of the things that I wish it was more clear, that people were like, oh, this person's past infrastructure. But the thing is, like, Trump, JD Vance, they haven't really done anything in politics. Elon hasn't done anything outside of like the business world in policy. And even though we've had statespeople in the Democratic Party, it's like policy, 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 policy. People's not listening to that. They're not. And it's incredibly frustrating to have this issue where we have this problem where people don't understand policy, because like one of the number one things that were Googled after Trump won was, what is a tariff? Right, like and tariff is the thing that Trump ran on, right? Like, I was having a conversation here with my family, and they still think that tariffs are a tax on the countries that are getting tariffs, and it's like, that's not actually how it works. And it's really, really frustrating. And just to circle back on something that you said, Ian, that kind of like made my heckles go up a little bit, was about education and college being useless. I fundamentally disagree. Like, yes, the way
Well, no,
that
I
that
didn't mean that
experience.
it's actually useless. I just mean the workplace is not treating it with the value that it deserves and it used to have.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for the clarification. But essentially, though, what we're having in this country, and I was having this conversation with one of my family members yesterday, is what is the number one department that they're trying to get rid of right away? Education. Immediately. Like, get rid of the funding structures. Let's get rid of all of the things that are involved with education. Let's rip it out by the roots, and then we'll no longer have an education system that serves the public. Because education allows people to understand policy. It helps people understand what a vote is. It helps people understand what a tariff is, civics, and all of these things. And I remember a long time ago, conservatives were like, we need to teach civics again. We need to teach financial literacy and all this stuff. But now they're ripping out the entire system that is going to teach those things in the first place. You also have the fact that you have the fact that we haven't been forgiving student loans, which has had a young generation of people see their siblings straddled by student loan debt so badly, and their parents straddled by student loan debt so badly that they don't want to go. See, these are the feature of the broken system, and you are right. Like, companies should value education more, but we are the most educated population. Millennials, at least, are the most educated generation in America's history. So now organizations are being like, well, everybody's got a degree, so now I'm going to ask for a lot of experience on top of that. And we're all running around with debt. We're all trying to utilize our college degrees and skill sets. I got a degree in political science. I'm maybe 9% of the entire education class of political scientists in this country that actually does work in politics. Most of my colleagues are working in law. They're working in like some communications firms. They're working all over the place. And that's what college should be. College should be kind of like a key that gets you in a lot of doors. But a lot of times people are saying, no, you need to have this specific degree to work at this specific place. And it's like, that's useless. That to me is useless. I do not like that, because you got to give people the ability to grow after, their first 4 years out of high school, which is silly to me. So I'm kind of rambling a little bit here, but going back to your final piece, or your initial piece about the bigger problem, how male loneliness is a symptom, how we are at this point. Yes, it is a symptom. But it is something that we're directly having to deal with, because that symptom is producing more people to go and vote right wing. So it's like there's a bleeding happening, and we need to stop that bleeding, even though the symptom is the spinning machine that is cutting people. Right? We need to stop saving the people, and then we can stop that machine. Like, it's like there is a really. Gosh, that's morbid. I just came up with that analogy off the top of my head, and I think that's
I
the
was
most
gonna
realistic
say
thing.
that was crazy.
Well,
But that's
the way that
exactly what's happening in our society.
Yeah.
That might
Yeah.
help is treating it like crime. Up to a certain point,
it's good to rehabilitate criminals. But there's a line that they cross. It's like, no, you just need to be removed from society now.
Yeah. And you're right. We need to train. We need to rehabilitate. But I think that is probably why the system is so chaos, right? Like the system is chaos because it causes so much damage to the human lives around us that it causes a lot of people that want to do direct services and people who want to fix the system to be like, we don't have time. We need to save these lives that are on the ground bleeding out on the field, and we also have to also stop the machinery that is destroying the humans. And it's just like, oh my gosh, I think I overdid it in my own thought here. because it is. It's
I guess
so
that's part of the
it's like
problem
when
as
you,
well. It just feels so overwhelming.
yeah, it is. And this is how
It
it's
is.
easy to spiral into doomerism about
Yeah.
it. Because we have so much work to do. And so when we have, like Alyssa here who works in, sex therapy and all of that and that important work, I'm doing stuff in politics. And then we have, Forrest Valley guy who's doing biology. We're all trying to approach this unwinnable situation at the moment at different angles, but we're also trying to educate and help humans along the way with our own skill sets and expertise. And it looks really bad and it sucks and it's so hard. But I think that the goal is good. I think a better world is like the change that we want to see, that we all know we want. That's what a lot of us voted for in this last election. We wanted to see a world past Trumpism. I think a lot of us are exhausted by it, but we now have to realize, as the Great Depression plagued a generation before, it stayed with people. The Reconstruction stayed with people. Like, we are going to have a generation of people that are going to have to deal with the right-wing fascist authoritarian lurch of the world, and it's going to stay with us as much as the Great Depression and slavery and all of the terrible wars and Vietnam and World War II and all of those things are like crosses and that we have to bear. Sorry for the religious analogy, but like it is a thing that our generation is going to have to deal with. But when we understand the issue that we are dealing with, I think we're going to get past it and recover from the trauma together as a generation. And I had to add hope there because, man, like we are going to get past it. This doom machine that is just slicing people left and right. We gotta end it, and we're gonna get there. But it's scary, and I'm sure you're dealing with it too, Ian, in Scotland.
Oh yeah, we've got a Labour government now who haven't been a socialist party for about 20 years, so it's all fun and games.
Yeah, for sure.
And one thing that is
Alyssa,
kind of
did you want to add
encouraging
any?
is
go ahead.
the thought of people having to group together as like an anarchist. I've had more discussions about things like mutual aid in the last couple of months than who knows when.
Yeah, I think this will be a continuing conversation that we have, and like Chewed Gum has been a show where we really try and focus on like women and femme presenting people and that kind of stuff to the best of our ability. But and like we always have co-hosts that fall into that category. And I think that makes this show like uniquely qualified to have this conversation. And so I'm glad that it's come up today. I'm grateful for Callie bringing it up in the beginning and Ian for you calling now. And we've had so many great conversations in the chat too. And I want to keep this conversation going because it's going to continue to evolve, especially as things change here and also globally. I mean, Ian, you're calling us from Scotland, which is I love Scotland, by the way. It's like my favorite place. I'm very jealous you live there. But we'll see how this. I love it. Edinburgh is my favorite city I've ever been to. It's so beautiful. But yeah, so we'll see how this continues to evolve. And I'm loving the conversations in the chat too as a result of these calls. So
Cool.
so yeah, we'll see how this continues. And I appreciate you calling in and contributing to it.
Thanks. There was just one quick thing before I go. So I have not heard anybody bring it up, like in discussions or media. The congresswoman who brought in the bill for the bathroom ban, is that Nancy Mace?
Yes.
What's she going to do when there's a trans
it was
man in
like-
her bathroom?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
That is
Guessing that's
something that...
not a thought that ever occurred to her.
That's
Yeah,
a
and
person who's never seen a real trans person if they really feel like that's going to be, it's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
And she has her own private bathroom that she uses in her office. Like she
course she does.
is such a... Yeah, so she's not even going to encounter trans people outside in the hallways.
What a
In the
hot
bathrooms.
garbage person.
I know.
Yeah.
She's bad. She's
I
awful.
did like
Sucks.
Alyssa's response. It was good to see somebody call out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a good one. It is nuts. Yeah. But thank you, Ian. We really appreciate your call today.
Thanks. Good.
Thanks,
good
Ian.
chat
Have a
again.
good night.
Bye now.
Woo.
Yeah, Alyssa, you didn't know that most Congress people have their own personal bathrooms in their office?
You know what? When the big party happened on January 6th a couple of years ago, I remember hearing Congress people talking about hiding in their bathrooms. Now that you say it, but that's fucking incredible. Just wow.
That's why people got annoyed at Sarah, because she was like, sure, I'll follow the rules. Like, from your private bathroom? Like, come on. Like, you know, it's like, because it's really about the trans people who are staffers, people who are there
Right.
lobbying, people who work like I do, you know, just going and doing my daily thing if I'm having meetings. I get called to congressional roundtables and I have conversations with Congress people. They're inviting me to the House and then I can't even use the facilities. Like, how...
That's
gross
insane.
is that? Yeah,
So insane
it's
and
wild.
dehumanizing. Fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
All right, let's go through our super chats. Those always put me in the best mood. Let's see what we
Yes,
got
they do.
today. Okay, so I don't know, Josie, if you do this when you are co-hosting all of the other shows, but do you go back and forth? We usually go back and forth.
Yes.
Okay.
We do.
Wonderful. Okay. I'll take this first one and then we'll go back and forth.
Go
from there.
for it.
Okay. 5 pounds from Herbie Shine. When Eve is back, let's make her and Alyssa do a 12-hour live show to show those Skep Talkers how a long show is really done. Their 8.5 hours is beatable. I don't know how they did 8.5 hours.
Me and Forrest did 5 once.
Do you guys start earlier in the day for those shows?
It was like,
No.
it started out it was a normal time. Yeah, that's right.
I'm honored by the amount of people who want this show to be 8 hours long, and I don't know if I could commit to that, but maybe one day.
Well,
maybe
like
one day.
Forrest and I have mused about actually doing a show. I think it was called TMI. Too much information, which is like where we actually have callers like have long form conversations that last hours.
Wow.
Where we like talk. So we've mused about it, which is fun.
It's crazy.
But
The craziest part of it is that it's being requested and people would want to watch that. That would be my thought. I was like, no one wants to sit there for 8 hours. They do. They do, and they will.
I know. I used to stream on Twitch. And I have gone 8-hour sessions before, and people are there the whole time.
It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Herbie.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter. I just realized I think Josie is the first host to be on every show on the network. She's going Chewed Gum. Now she's been on the Hang Up and Takis. Yeah, I think that's right. I've been on, Cause I Wanna. I've done Skeptic. I've done this show, Takis. I haven't done the Well, have I done the Sunday show? I might have done this. If I have done the Sunday show, then yes, I have been on
That's
every show.
amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Versatile.
$5 from Alishana Silverbow. Shortly after the election, my conservative sister tried to comfort me by texting me, "Life goes on." I responded, "Not for everyone under Trump." Facts. Exactly. That's why it always makes me mad. It's going to be the same as last time. It's literally already not, and he's not even in office.
Already not. Yeah. $5 from Alyssa. When I used to work at Disneyland Resort and most likely said I have a magical day over 9,000 times, and other Alyssa said it is as I was typing this. Oh, that's great. And it's good to see you, Alyssa. You haven't been on Takis in a while. I'm glad that you're still part of the line chatters. I miss you.
We love Alyssa. My name twin. $4.99 from Coffee Mom. Spite kindness for the win. Yeah, I get that. I love a little spitefulness. It adds a little like in the day. I get that.
It does. $5 from Monkey a Typewriter. The male loneliness epidemic is really a male empathy social skills deficit. Loneliness is a problem for all. Male loneliness is a victim complex BS. It is. We need to like teach people skills to like not be lonely. Stop doing antisocial behavior. Like that. It's hard to say that, right? It's hard. It's like antisocial behavior. It's not, like you said, it's not toxic masculinity. It's just toxic. Like just stop.
It's
just going
bad
out in the world. Like, shower, like be hygienic, like do those things, like it's like, you could be the coolest and greatest human on the planet, but if you like have BO and you have bad breath and all that type of stuff and you're just like talking to them, like no matter how cool you are, it's like I need more time away from you, like simple things like that.
Solving the male loneliness epidemic one shower at a time.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. It's a beautiful campaign. $5 from the Raven 200. Okay, fellas, is it gay to checks notes, treat women with basic human decency? Unfortunately. Unfortunately, some people. Oh, okay. This one is. I saw this like come through before. This one is specifically for me to read. I don't have sunglasses.
Go for it.
But so you're gonna have to imagine that I do. Is this real? How would you define real? You've been living in a dream world, Neo. I know. It does. It's so weird because in real life, the wall is not that white, but I think because I have a light here, it is giving Matrix a little bit. Thank you for that, Will. I
didn't bring any of my white lights. All my whites are too soft. Lights are too soft. I feel like I'm in a yellow room with an orange cardigan, which was a terrible choice considering that I.
It's very. You have cozy vibes.
Yeah, cozy. $10 from Bobby Kensington. I think that's. I'm sorry if it's wrong. I take care of my dad who has dementia and my mom who has cancer. They live separately. I'm always busy. I know my loneliness is a byproduct of my situation. Kind of why I'm here. Will call someday. Oh, well. I'm sorry that is the case, but you also are self-aware to understand, like, you are dealing with other things right now. But you should definitely call in and let us know, because we may have an obscure view, right? I think when Alyssa and I talk about this particular issue, we are specifically talking about people who have the ability, are able to actually go out into the world and do this, and actually teaching those skills to those individuals. So please know, Bobby, we are not talking about folks like yourself who are doing incredibly important healthcare needs for your family. So like, we hope that it didn't come off that we're like this anti-male loneliness altogether, because we do know it's a human feeling, and we do have sympathy for it.
And Bobby, you're such a big part of like our experience here. Especially, I'm sure you're a part of the other line shows too. But like, I love when you come up in our chats and our super chats, and so I love your existence in this show and in our community, and even on like my Instagram too. Like that means a lot. So I appreciate you very much, and please call in someday. I will be so excited the day that you call in. And if you call in on a day when I'm not here, I'm going to be so sad, and you're going to have to call in again. So
Yikes.
We'll talk to you soon, Bobby. $5 for Mr. Boricua 10. If giving ladies face is considered gay, then color me absolutely queer, which I am, pan, because I think it would be the default position until it isn't. If giving ladies face, what does that mean? If giving ladies face, am I like reading that?
Well, no, you're not. I think it's regards to the story that I told about giving lady respect.
Yeah.
And I think that may be what Barigua means. So we're just gonna assume that maybe.
Okay, slay. Sure.
Giving ladies face, giving them love. I don't know. Maybe it's a term I'm missing. $5 again from Bobby. Want to make it clear I'm still navigating this whole parasocial communities thing, and I feel awkward but grateful for the show and host. And sorry for making that parasocial relationship more difficult, as we are talking directly to you, because we do love you as part of the community. So yeah, we really do though. Thank you.
$5 from the Raven 200. Everyone be sure to consensually slap the like button on this big, round, thick, plump, juicy derriere. That button bought a brand new outfit for you. That's really funny.
That's true, though. It did. It really wants that love and attention.
It does. It does.
£5 from Mystic Minds and Alice's Tavern. Never in history did human rights come from asking nicely enough. Asking nicely enough compromises. Time to start giving the state no choice but to listen to us. I agree.
Agreed. 5. I'm so bad at reading currency. What is that? Euros? Okay, I thought that was euros. And then one time I thought I said euros and someone made fun of me. So I just need to make sure. Thank you, Morgan. €5 from Tina. What happened?
I said 5 E's, 5 euros,
5 E's.
Whatever. Yeah, you know, that's it.
From Tina Witt, you are stressing me out. I just finished the 9 hours of Forrest and Guts at Gibbon, and now I already missed an hour of you. Okay, that makes sense that it was... I don't know if I caught that before, that it was Forrest and Erica. That makes a lot of sense that they went for 9 hours.
Yeah. Forrest will vibe off of host and just be on forever. So I will vibe off of Forrest and we'll just go forever.
Forever. I love it.
Arden, when she's producing, will literally just cut off the show. She's like, you guys are done. I'm done.
She's like, anyway, good night.
Yeah.
Pushes the big red shiny button, detonates the whole thing. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. $5 from Brenda. Bill Clinton slowly moved the Democratic Party to the right in order to represent Wall Street, and made ours move further to the right into insanity. It's infuriating. Yeah, there is a lot of that. There's a lot of that it was that level of politics of trying to be Reagan after Reagan won that massive landslide. And you know, Bill Clinton ended up beating Bush, but Bill Clinton was just like dressing it up. But yeah, we've been in a lot of trouble. This is a reason we haven't had a minimum wage increase in like 30 years.
Wow.
But anyways, yeah.
$5 from Allison Little. Alice. What happened to Dems who would fight hard, get assaulted, and say, please, can I have another? This party's voters and politician is weak and passive. Yeah. That's kind of where we've been at.
I think that's why we need more better politicians actually running for office, and we're starting to see it. Like, we won 35 seats in the last election for trans people. We won a trans woman in Kentucky and unseated a Republican incumbent in the county.
Amazing.
Like we we are winning. And where are we running? We're running in places where Democrats don't want to even attempt. So it's taking trans people to go and make these races competitive, because a lot of Democrats are like, oh, that's a Republican seat, we're not even going to try. And it's usually a trans person who's like, I want to serve my community, and then win. Right? It's like so frustrating. Just always showing up everywhere.
Yeah.
$10 from Alyssa Wynn to Josie. Alyssa, 1 of 2, and Josie, 2 hot girls making steam with hot rocks. My Navy time was August 1999 to September 2002. Guys didn't act that way around me because I was outdated as trans. MPTU Charleston. So me and Alyssa were both reactor operators in the Navy, so we both had the same job. So I served from 2004 to 2010. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's so cool that you guys had the
Yeah.
same job. Wow.
Yeah, it's cool stuff. Wow.
Something crazy. I'm obviously in Manhattan because
definitely.
That's crazy.
Something's going down. I could read the next one for you.
Nothing to do with the line.
Nothing to do with the line. $5 from Herbie Shine. Silly observation. When I watch Josie, I always think she's wearing a beret. I have just realized it's her headphones. I'm an idiot. Great show. Thank you. Yes. They have been headphones this entire time.
That's so funny, Herbie. I love that. $5 Canadian from David Haxor. Hexor? Okay.
Yeah.
Harris talked about complex issues. Trump had easy solutions. I feel like that's a fair criticism too.
It really is.
He was like, we're going to make everything less expensive by making it less expensive. And everyone was like, that's my guy.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And he's like, tariffs. And everybody's like, yeah, tariffs. And everybody's like, wait, tariffs?
Right.
I know. He just announced yesterday that he's going to put a 25% tariff on all goods from Canada and Mexico yesterday. So, yep. Have fun, everybody, with your avocados. They're not going to be around anymore. California, $5 Canadian from David Exor. Hi, lady. Hi.
Hey. $4.99 from Ian Colson at the line. Y'all spoiling us with such amazing minds. I wish I could put into words how much of it means to so many of us. Thank you, Ian. That's really kind.
Yeah. $10 from Crystal B. What a power pair tonight, even despite one of our hosts trapped in the void. Haha. Good work tonight. Keep it coming. Yeah. No, I really love this combo. We should do this more.
I'm so down. Anytime.
Yeah.
$10 from Alishana Silverbow. Oh, I saw this when it came up in the chat too. It was making me laugh. Women are very hard to read. Women, actually, we just want such complex creatures. Women, if you just listen, men, so mysterious. Hashtag my only joke tonight. Hashtag I spent too much on Skep Talk. That's really good. That was $10 well spent because I was reading that in the chat and it was making me laugh so much. It was great.
It was so true. So true. $5 Canadian from David Hexor. Makes sense Congress people have their own bathrooms since they are full of I think we can fill in the blanks.
Yeah. $5 from the Raven 200. Forrest and Erica are not human. LMAO. I can't imagine going over 8 hours. RIP Amargan Sanity. Jimmy, go take a pentagram sword attack by Ezra Scarlet. That is the craziest, like, Jimmy go insert whatever that I've read so far.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you.
That is amazing.
I didn't have any sanity.
You didn't start with any, so you had nothing to lose.
Yeah. $4.99 from Ian Colson. This is for the chat. The love and support is always so unreal and just makes me so freaking happy. Aw, thank you, Ian.
$5 from Monkey at Typewriter. Ending the male loneliness epidemic one shower at a time, brought to you by Axe Body Spray. Also, guys, being armed isn't a personality trait. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, I love the fact that Axe would actually run with that probably at some point. Like,
yeah, they would. They 100% would. Or what's the one in the red bottle?
Oh, Old Spray. Old Spice.
Old Spice. They would do that
Old
too.
Spice.
100%.
Yeah,
they would do that.
Yeah.
Too.
They always have like really hot guys that do those commercials. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
$5 from Chaotic Organized. Thank you for helping me get through get to bed at a reasonable hour tonight. You're welcome. You're welcome.
You and I both.
Sleep hygiene. It's important. Yeah.
We're all about that here at Chewed Gum. $10 from Bobby Keniston. Oh gosh, I actually agree with what you were saying. I was just sharing my own loneliness accountability. And Alyssa, it's your expertise I will need if I ever call. I will be waiting for you, my friend.
Yeah.
I'm so excited for you to call.
$5 from Mr. Barigua. Alyssa, it is the concept of giving face is to give the other party a chance to not disgrace themselves, where saving face comes from its respect.
Got it. That's interesting.
Okay. Interesting. Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, I learned something new.
Yeah.
I always do.
We did.
Tuesday nights, I always do. Thank you, Josie, for coming on. This was so great. And I'm so glad that we finally got to have a show together.
I know. It's nice. I can't wait to come back. And I'll come back with my normal background with all the colors and my lighting and camera.
Same. Well, thank you everyone for listening and for having such great conversations, especially in the chat today. I loved that. And everyone who called, and Amargan for screening and for producing today, and all of our patrons and all the people. We appreciate you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Yay! And make sure you join the Patreon to join this amazing list of people.
Yes.
Do you remember when this list used to be so short? It's getting so long now.
Scroll.
It's amazing. Just keep on scrolling. Join, and also Chewed Gum has the best music on the entire Line Network, and I'm super jealous.
It's a club.
Feels like I'm a rainbow.